What's good, everybody? Of course, it is your host Vince here once again. Thank you for welcome to the Russ and Vince Courtside Podcast. Today's episode, we are going to be just the two of us once again. Unfortunately, Russ is not going to be able to make it to today's episode, but we are still going to be talking about today's Game Six and what a game it was. If you're a Pacers fan, you had to love it. If you were an OKC Thunder fan, you had to just kind of be like, "Who cares?" Right? And I'm going to talk about that. But of course, before we dive deep into the Game 6 recap, if you're not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. If you enjoy the content, hit a like, share with your friends. Let us, know your opinions in the comment section down below as well with each video, what your thoughts and opinions are. And as always, man, let's get right into this. So, as you guys can see in the title of today's video, the Pacers huge blowout win over the OKC Thunder. Wasn't even close. It was so bad of a blowout that literally the entire fourth quarter, basically all the starters from both sides were just out. The Pacers were up by as much as 30 plus points. Handled the Thunder pretty seemingly well all throughout the game for the most part. But at the same time, there was a moment in a time where the Thunder did actually kind of look like they had a little bit more life. And then the Pacers went ahead and took that away too. So either way, man, crazy game, crazy game. So we're gonna go ahead and dive right into this Game Six recap. It's not gonna be as long of a video today, just because of kind of unfortunately the snore fest of a game we had. But we definitely do want to give present in terms of what happened, and then also what exactly can we expect, or what do we hope to expect from Game Seven. Now, as we pull up the box score here, we're gonna dive really quickly into the team stats here, right? We don't want to go right into the box score quite yet because the box score is going to tell us a lot, but obviously this is a team sport. So let's just look and see any areas that we kind of, are noticing some changes, right? First and foremost, let's look at the field goal attempts. So in this game, the Pacers actually were able to get 18 more field goal attempts, right? Which tells you that they had a lot more chances at the bucket. Now, that's the one thing you don't want to give the Pacers, because we know historically, at least this season, they have not been a good rebounding team at all. If they happen to out rebound you, usually that's a game that they're beating you. And in this case, we can see in the box score 46-41 in terms of the rebounding, round. And then, of course, 11 offensive rebounds to OKC's 4. So that just goes to tell you that they did a great job gang rebounding together in this particular matchup, which is phenomenal. Then again, you look at the free throw attempts. Now, some of these games have been a little bit kind of like momentum swingers, right? I would even say in this particular game specifically, there was a moment in which it just seemed like we kept seeing free throw after free throw after free throw, not just from OKC slash SGA all the time, but even just the Pacers. And so I did like that overall in terms of the refereeing this game. It was a lot more balanced, I would say, which I often stated my case why I said the Pacers have a legit chance to take this team to at least 6 or 7. Said Pacers in 6 or 7. Go check those videos because I know my boy Russ is going to be fact checking me. But I did say Pacers in 6 or 7. A lot of it had to be based off of, again, how these games are being officiated. One thing I will tell you is that in this particular type of game, where again a level of physicality is allowed, obviously certain obvious calls they called, but then every now and then they had those ticky tack fouls where you kind of just like, not really sure about that, right? But in the end, man, I mean, I thought it was a well balanced game, really good officiated game on both sides. And yeah, I liked it. But as far as the stats here, again, just for the team, I mean, um, I think the biggest difference is not going to show up on here specifically, but it was the bench. And we're going to see that here in just a second. The bench scoring from the Pacers was definitely the huge X factor in this game, just as I felt like it's been the X factor in every game that they've won in this series so far. We've heard a lot about OKC's bench being elite, but the Pacers bench is right up there, if not slightly better than them. If you look at the way that the Pacers overall utilize their key players, a lot of the X factors in this series, in fact, for the Pacers are of their bench players. TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin, Ben Matherin. So the list goes on, right? Whereas OKC, in some ways, I'm not saying they're top heavy, but what we've noticed, especially these last few games, they've relied heavily on Jalen Williams, heavily on SGA. And then you got Chet, who's just kind of one moment he's in for the show, and then the next moment he's not quite. And we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But as you can see, even down the bottom there, the largest lead for OKC in this game was just 8, right? And that was early in the game. I think like maybe the first quarter, if not like early in the second quarter, they had an 8-point lead at the most. But since then, the Pacers, they got up as much as 31 points. And that actually took place as soon as I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like early beginning of the third quarter to start the half. They really put a nail in the coffin. They did everything they can to not only keep that lead, but to push that lead forward. And then, like I said, there was a moment in the third quarter where it did seem like early in the third quarter, the Thunder were looking to kind of make some type of run of their own. They went on like an 8-0 run at the time, cut the lead down to like 19 or 18 or something like that. Not to say that that's a whole lot, but we do know that, the Thunder, you have to respect them. And you get that lead down to close to 10, maybe even 12 at the best or most. Going into the fourth quarter, you still like your chances if you're a Thunder fan. But the Pacers, they just never put their foot off the gas, especially led by TJ McConnell with that pace. Gotta love how he's, been able to really lead the team in terms of basically the offense running through him, which they did say in the broadcast as well. But TJ McConnell really, really these last couple of games, even the game they lost in game 5, really has stepped up big time, right? And so I definitely want to look at the box score there just to kind of see how much of an impact we saw. Keep in mind, you guys, again, we're not really here to tell the full story that this was all just stats, right? Like we want to dive into the box score just to kind of see what happened. Because in case you guys did get a chance to catch the game live or get a chance to watch the highlights, because the highlights have not been produced quite yet. Obviously I did watch the game myself from start to finish. And then I do think that the box score does kind of tell us a bigger story as well, as far as maybe what teams were lacking, as well as what other teams were making up to get the results we got, right? Now, before we do go into the box score, let's just take a brief look here, right, at the quarter scores. So as you can see in the first quarter, Pacers were able to at least have a 3-point lead to end that first 28-25. But that second quarter, that second and that third quarter were probably the best defense we've seen them quarter for quarter all finals long, right? They've had spurts where they've been able to put together some pretty sound, decent, fair, but also really good, great elite defensive moments, but consistently from quarter to quarter, especially to end a quarter and then to start a half, or I mean, beg my pardon, to end a half and then start a half. Kudos to the Pacers defense for that one. That's really what did the job here, because they realistically could have gone on a very high scoring binge if they wanted to, but you could tell that they really put an emphasis defensively on certain players in this matchup, and it definitely shows. Now let's look at the box score here. First and foremost, obviously, when you look at the starters, you got to think to yourself, the two most glowing things that we can see here is Chet and Lou Dort, right? Now, Chet, that one, I'm really kind of like, what is going on? Bro only scored 4 points, 6 rebounds, 0 assists. But here's the biggest thing: 0 steals, 0 blocks, 2 turnovers. So what that tells me is like he's not getting his own offensively, which we know he's not the first, obviously not the second option now, right? That belongs to Jalen Williams as he's emerged. But even as a third option, he didn't do anything. He didn't affect anything offensively. He didn't really affect anything defensively, as we can see. And so, because of that, he was almost unplayable. And at that time, that's when you start to see them kind of not really be able to stop the Pacers, especially in the interior, as best as we've seen Chet. Chet has done a great job in this series for the most part, as far as being able to stop people in the paint. We've seen him have some really good highlight blocks at times, clean up the glass at times. He's had a couple double doubles, if I'm not mistaken, in this finals. But in this particular game, he just did not show up. And then, of course, you look at Mr. Lou Dort, with the exception of that 1 3 that he made very late in the game when the game was already kind of in the balance going the Pacers' direction. He didn't do much either. He was 0 for 4 prior to that make. He had 4 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks. And again, his main objective in this matchup is defense. We've seen him do some really good job in terms of his on ball presence, stopping Tyrese, stopping. Nemhart, and even stopping whoever he can, whoever is there. Also doing a great job at on ball and off ball, denials, trying to stop the opposing team from even being able to get the ball, let alone to have to get the ball and go one on one against him. In this game, he just didn't really seem like he had it. And then of course you got SGA pedestrian 21 points. A lot of that did kind of look a little especially at times when he was really hitting the free throw line. I think in that third quarter, second quarter, um, didn't really seem as effective. And then Jalen Williams didn't really seem as effective as well. As you can see, he had the worst of the worst in terms of the plus minus box, minus 40. Just not a really good game overall. One thing I do want to talk real quick about the Thunder before we do dive into the Pacers. The Thunder bench really did not show up. Like we've seen Alex Caruso obviously play lights out, right? My boy Russ always has this saying, like, if Caruso is gonna score 20 points, especially knowing we don't you don't see him that often do that, you might as well book the Thunder for a win. And I do think that that's a key factor of something that the Thunder are going to look at going into Game 7 is how to get some of their other players involved, how to get Chet involved, how to get Alex involved, how to even get Aaron Wiggins involved because we've seen him, almost go for 30 at one point or almost 20, beg my pardon, at one point. I believe in like Game 4 or something like that. So, um, either way, man, I mean, it just the bench didn't have it this game. Obviously, you can see a lot of people with some points, but that was a lot of garbage town or garbage time. Prior to that, they didn't really do much. I mean, obviously, you see Alex Caruso with the most minutes off the bench, Aaron Wiggins the most off the bench. I mean, they combined 1 for 6, a pedestrian 5 points off the bench as your 6 man and your 7 man rotation. That's just not going to get the job done. And then again, the 3 point shooting for the Thunder just wasn't it. I mean, they were 8 for 30. They shot 26.7% just from three, not good. And then a decent to okay, not really, 42% from the field. So yeah, man, just was one of those games that Thunder just didn't have it. And as we look at the Pacers, as we can see here, I mean, really the biggest thing that I'm seeing here is an anomaly is the bench players, right? Now, obviously, the story of the Pacers is not really so much the starters, because although the starters, when you really think about the individual talent that the Pacers have, in terms of their starting lineup, they just, I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's like they'll have like a well balanced, decent scoring game as starters, but it's the bench that makes the difference, right? Like you see Obi Toppin, 20 points. Granted, some of that wasn't garbage time as well. So I'm not gonna, leave him like, oh yeah, 20 points when it mattered. No, he had like about 16, I believe 16 or 14 when it really mattered. And then, scored a couple buckets there. But then TJ McConnell, right? 12 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals. I mean, insane. This guy plus 10, and then OB plus 8. I mean, it was them that in some ways really carried this team, especially in the moments when OKC had gone up by 8. It was the bench that really stepped up, along with Pascal in good moments, along with, Tyrese in good moments to really kind of just solidify themselves and never look back from there. Even though Miles Turner did not have a good scoring game, he did play really good defensively. As you can see, he had 2 blocks, but it was not just the blocks himself, it was the deflections. It was also the tip ins, things of that nature. He was really doing good defensively in this game. And so I want to give him a shout out, at least for that, even though look at the box score, it was not pretty. I always often said if Miles Turner could just come with a solid, like just a solid overall game, offensively, defensively clicking, and then you obviously get what you get out of Pascal. You get what you get out of, in this case, I think you could book it for TJ, but you don't always know what you're going to get from Neesmith. You don't always know what you're going to get from Nemhart. You don't know what you're always going to get from, from Halliburton, right? Um, but there's so much depth in this and well balanced scoring opportunities for this team that it doesn't really matter who is the leading scorer for the most part. All that matters is they get a dub. As you can see from the starters, Pascal obviously has had the best stat overall: 16 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, plus 13. And yeah, I mean, like I said, starters are good, but it was definitely the bench that made the difference. And then obviously the 3 point shooting as well wasn't as bad compared to the Thunder. They shot a 36% if we're rounding up. About the same percentage from the field as the Thunder, slightly less, but they have more attempts. And that's the biggest thing. With each attempt that the Pacers had, also came with time off that clock, right? So they were able to milk that clock as they were already stacking up their lead, to the point where obviously we get the results that we get. But yeah, that's going to be it for the most part as far as the stats going. Like I said, today's going to be a pretty short episode. We're not going to go too long into this. So I do want to go right into game 7, right? Now, in terms of game 7, there's a couple things that we have to look at in terms of the flow of the finals, right? Now, um, what I've noticed is, again, I'm not trying to say it's all the refereeing, but I am going to say this as an NBA fan. I want to see good, clean basketball. I want to see good, clean basketball that is physical, that is, you're not calling these ticky tack fouls. You're not choosing certain players that you're going to make foul calls for. You're not choosing, certain teams that you're going to give foul calls more, especially if they're home or on the road. Like, just a well balanced game is what I think NBA fans really want to see. Personally, I'm a Lakers fan. I don't care who wins. Obviously, for my take integrity, I would love for the Pacers to win. I did say Pacers again in 6 or 7, but I'm sure Russ would say otherwise. He's going to say OKC in 7, even though he said OKC in 6. But at the same time, I just want to see good, clean basketball. If we get a good, clean game 7, that right there will make up for all the other BS that we've seen kind of going on in the finals. Obviously, what I'm talking about here is game 4. Game 4, it was not the best basketball to watch. And so even one could argue game 6 today wasn't the best basketball to watch either. It was a blowout, right? Nobody likes to see a blowout in the finals. You want to see good, hard, clean, physical basketball that's down to the wire. That's the best ball to watch, which is probably why game 1, if I had to predict, in the finals has been the most watched, best game overall in this series. Not because the Pacers won game 1, but because it was a lot of back and forth. It was a lot of well balanced, good officiating, physical basketball, not a whole lot of BS going on. And then you get the game winner, right? Like, that was overall the best game in the finals overall so far. Let's hope we get something like that game 7, where it's not a blowout like we've been experiencing. Some of these games have just been really, really boring and annoying to watch. But at the same point in time, there has to be one winner. The fun thing with the game 7 is anything goes in terms of anything is possible, anything can happen, right? Win or go home. Who doesn't want a win or go home situation in the NBA finals, right? Some may say this was scripted. Some may say this is just good for basketball. I don't know. But all I'm going to say is I'm tuning in. Y'all make sure you tune in as well. Me, would like to say, I do think my gut is telling me it's a toss, but of course, I'm going to say Pacers. I do think that they found something specifically in this game. They're going to be well rested. They barely had to play today. That means more rest for Haliburton to get back into his rhythm, get back into gameplay, right? Not to say that he's even taking any time because he's played all these games, but when you have a, leg injury or a leg strain that he's dealing with, as much day and as much time as rest as you can get, the better, right? And so, and on top of that, you have these days in between. They don't even play again until Sunday. So we don't even like get to watch basketball for another 2, 3 days until the finals on Sunday happen. And so, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and say Pacers in 7. Okay. I already can tell you without even checking my phone right now. My boy Russ is probably going to say Thunder in 7, just because he doesn't want to look like a fool. But at the same time, y'all let us know what y'all think. Me personally, like I said, I think the Pacers have a chance. They've unlocked themselves with their bench. That's the biggest thing. You get some good play from TJ McConnell. You get some good play from Obi Toppin. If Ben Mathurin can show up, especially in moments where maybe the offense is not flowing as well, because we know that the Thunder play very well, especially on their home court defensively. If those kind of key X factor players for the Pacers show up, along with Halliburton not having a piss poor game 7 like he had a piss poor game 5 on the road, if he can show up, if Siakam can show up as I guess it's okay to say at this point, he's really the leader, the most experienced player for sure in terms of finals appearances, with him being in the finals back with the Toronto Raptors when they won their championship in 2019. I do think they have a chance. I'm not saying that it's like a big chance, but one thing I've noticed is each and every time that these teams have taking the lead over. Like we keep hearing, oh, this team has a 75% chance of winning it all. Nope. Now this team has an 80%. Now this team has an 85%. At this point, man, it's just going to come down to one thing, and that's who's going to ball out. And I just personally think that the Pacers, they are starving. They are hungry. And I'm not saying that the Thunder are not starving and hungry either. I'm not. But this game six did show me that they might be a little more relaxed than we realize. If you're a real championship team, you're not going to allow a game seven. Jordan never allowed a game seven. And I'm not saying that SGA is Jordan, not saying that this is the Chicago Bulls of the past in terms of the Thunder, but when you have a 3-2 lead and you have the opportunity to close them out on the road, you don't take them lightly. And I felt like they did take them lightly. Like they kind of was just like, if we get it, cool. If we don't, we're going to go home. What better way to win a championship than at our home court, right? And so when you have that mindset, which I'm not saying they have, but the way that they played in this game six, it does give that kind of appearance. And if that is the case, because they are a young team and this is the first time they've been in the finals, it's not looking the best for them. I don't care if they have home court. I don't care if it's a win or go home situation. I don't care if SGA just seems to just be super chill all the time with his interviews after a loss. And I also don't care that, yes, I understand the Thunder have not lost back-to-back games really ever. I think they're like 18-2 this specific season, regular and postseason, in terms of games after a loss. But here's the thing, man. The Pacers don't care. They don't care. The Pacers have literally done everything that you can ask and then some in terms of a small market team that was an underdog making their route to the finals, beating Giannis and the Bucks in 5, beating the number 1 seed and the quote unquote juggernaut of the East, 1 seed Cleveland Cavaliers in 5. Then they go toe to toe with the New York Knicks, right? A lot of people said Knicks were going to blow these boys out, right? They went in 6. Really could have won in 5 again. And out here they are in the NBA Finals. They had a chance to go up 3-1. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Controversy or whatever. But they at least got themselves back up to tie it up to force a game 7. I think this is a very resilient group. We know this group is very much close. They're very much like family, even if you want to say they're dogs, they're boys. It's very similar to the Thunder, but they've been around longer if you really think about it. SGA has really been with the Thunder for what, about 4 years now, maybe 5, and so whereas Miles Turner, he's been there the longest, 10 years, a whole decade. And then you also have obviously Tyrese getting traded, then you had Pascal getting traded, and then you have Rick Carlisle, who's been there for a while, and he's a stable coach as well. We cannot keep, underestimating Rick Carlisle's coaching ability, because coaching does still matter, especially in the finals. So either way, man, I got to say, man, I do think Pacers have a chance. I'd love to see the Pacers win. I've never personally been to Indiana, but hey, I don't care. I'd love to see what that situation is like. Just like I know a lot of people wanted to see what the Knicks were going to be like if they won. I think a lot of people were more scared if the Knicks won, just seeing how they were acting before they even made it to the finals. But I do get the impression that, obviously I've known that Indiana has been a big basketball city, right? I've known that for years. Even before I was born, they've been a basketball city. And I just love to see this particular team finally win a championship, man. Mix it up, man. Like, I'm so tired of how top heavy the West is. If the Pacers win, it's going to give me some glimpse that, you know what, maybe there can be some parity. We need to get some of these key players in the West out of here and get them in the East to compete a little bit more, like we're seeing every year in the West. But if the East team, like the Pacers, win after literally the Celtics just won last year, now we got back-to-back years of the Eastern Conference winning a title. I think that might be actually good for the league, because all we ever hear about is how great the West is. And I'm a Lakers fan. I got to deal with the West every freaking year. It's annoying. But for the East to end up winning 2 back-to-back championships, if that does happen, maybe the West is not as deep as we think. Maybe it's just the West is so messed up, bunched up, that they kind of just take each other out. But when you look at the East, they got such top heavy teams. And now you got teams like even the Magic, who are making some offseason acquisitions with, Desmond Bain coming on board now. And who knows what the Bucks are going to do? Who knows what the Atlanta Hawks are going to do. Who knows what any of these other teams who just didn't go where they wanted to go end up doing this offseason. And maybe we'll get a little more parity in the East. But I don't know, man. Either way, I actually would like to say the finals have not been terrible. They haven't been terrible. We've had some terrible games, unfortunately, and I'm going to say this was one. Even though I am glad that the Pacers won, and I'm not a Pacers fan, but I just like good basketball, and just some of these games it just haven't really, it hasn't clinged on to me quite yet, right? But at the same time, like I just want to see good basketball. This was not one of those games. Game 4 was not one of those games for me either. But I am hoping that Game 7 is going to be much different. I want to see a good closeout to basically just NBA, man. Because after this, we're not going to get any NBA at least until October. If we're talking like quality, NBA teams. I mean, you got the draft coming up here in a few weeks. You got the summer league games that are coming up here in Vegas, and I will, see if I end up reporting on that one since it is out here in Vegas, and I love to attend those as often as I can. But we don't got basketball till October, man. That's like 4 months away. So let's just hope that we can end this season on a really good note, man. Whether the Thunder win, whether the Pacers win, let's just watch some good ball. I'm cool with that. Y'all let me know in the comment section down below what y'all think. Do you guys got Pacers in 7? Do you guys got Thunder in 7? How'd you feel about Game 6? Was it kind of boring for you two? Did you enjoy it? Did you learn anything? Y'all let us know in the comment section down below. But regardless, man, again, it's your boy Vince out here. Again, appreciate the support. If you guys do enjoy our live streams or our videos, go check out our videos in the past. We did just recently do a video about the Lakers, as far as what's been going on with them. Jeannie Buss selling the organization for majority shares of $10 billion. Insane. What does that mean for all these other players? Y'all let us know below. But other than that, man, I appreciate your time, and y'all.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Russ and Vince Courtside Podcast, where we bring you the hottest NBA moments, discussions, and everything in between. If you like today's show, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a Courtside Podcast again.